Welcome back to Midnight Archives. We journey into the abyss where urban legends breathe, the paranormal beckons, and fear finds its home. Join our community of brave souls by liking, subscribing, and hitting that notification bell. As the midnight hour approaches, the archives await your presence. Let's begin. Today, we're diving into the haunting echoes of the World War II in the Philippines, a time when the land was a battlefield and stories of bravery, tragedy, and the unexplained were born. Buckle up because this isn't your average history lesson. It's a nightmare come to life. It's December 8, 1941. Pearl Harbor is still smoldering and the Japanese are already knocking on the Philippines' door. Within a month, most of Luzon was under Japanese control. It was like watching a horror movie in real time with the monster advancing faster than anyone could have imagined. Now here's where things get really gruesome. The Filipino-American forces put up one hell of a fight, but it wasn't enough. The battles of Bataan and Corregidor in April 1942 were like something out of a war movie, filled with intense drama, harrowing struggles, and relentless tension. But the real horror show? That came after the surrender. Ever heard of the Bataan Death March? It's exactly as terrifying as it sounds. Thousands of soldiers forced to march for days in the scorching heat with little food or water. For 3 long years, from 1942 to 1945, the Philippines lived through a real-life horror story. The Japanese occupation was like having a monster living in your house, calling the shots and terrorizing everyone. Forced labor, atrocities, you name it, it happened. But here's the thing. Even in the darkest times, hope finds a way. Filipino guerrillas kept fighting, proving that sometimes the best horror stories have a resistance plot. When the dust finally settled, the Philippines was left holding the pieces of a shattered nation. 1 million civilians dead, 45,000 Japanese prisoners of war. In the end, the Philippines' World War II story reads like a classic horror tale. Invasion, occupation, resistance, and liberation. It's a testament to human resilience in the face of unimaginable terror. The Filipino people didn't just survive, they fought back against the monsters at their door. Okay, let's start with our top 6. On our 6th place, last on the list but definitely not the least spookiest, Baguio City, the summer capital of the Philippines. Alright, let's set the scene. A beautiful mountain city, cool breezes, pine trees everywhere. Sounds lovely, right? Well, don't let that fool you. Baguio City has a dark past that's left it crawling with restless spirits. Before all hell broke loose, Baguio was just a chill summer spot for American colonial officials. It was even home to the Philippine Military Academy. But little did they know, they were building their paradise on what would become a playground for the damned. In 1941, the Japanese rolled in and turned this slice of heaven into a hell on earth. They took over Camp John Hay and made it their base. And get this, the infamous General Yamashita, known as the Tiger of Malaya, set up shop here in 1944. Yamashita. Sounds familiar, right? I bet that name's ringing some bells. And if you're thinking what I'm thinking, you're probably wondering about a certain legendary treasure. Well, treasure hunters, you're in luck. We've got a whole video dedicated to that golden mystery. Check out the legend of Yamashita's treasure. The link's hiding somewhere on your screen. Trust me, it's a tale that'll have you grabbing your shovels and metal detectors. But for now, let's get back to our haunted history tour of Baguio. Because treasure or no treasure, this city's got enough ghosts to fill 100 volts. From February to April 1945, Baguio became a war zone. American and Filipino forces fought to reclaim the city, and let me tell you, it wasn't pretty. Bombs rained down, reducing much of Baguio to rubble. By the time the dust settled on April 26, 1945, the city was liberated. But at what cost? Here's where it gets really spooky, folks. All the death and destruction left its mark. Baguio is now considered one of the most haunted cities in the world. From headless priests roaming hotel corridors to the cries of tortured souls echoing through the night, this city is a paranormal investigator's dream, or nightmare. Today, Baguio might be known as a cool retreat from the Philippine heat, but for those in the know, it's so much more. It's a city where history and horror walk hand in hand, where every street corner could be hiding a century-old secret, and where the ghosts of World War II still linger. Folks, Baguio isn't just haunted, it's practically Ghostbusters' paradise. This city is considered one of the most haunted in the world. Between the Japanese occupation and a devastating earthquake in 1990, there's enough tragedy here to fuel 1,000 horror movies. Ever wanted to stay in a hotel where headless priests and nuns roam the halls? No? Well, too bad. Because that's exactly what you'll find at the Diplomat Hotel. During World War II, Japanese forces turned this former seminary into a slaughterhouse. Now, visitors report hearing screams, spectral nuns, and seeing headless apparitions. This Victorian mansion might look pretty, but don't let it fool you. Used as a Japanese garrison during the war, it's seen more torture and death than your average haunted house. People have spotted a white figure in the windows, and trust me, it's not the mate. Established in 1908, this camp got a dark makeover during the Japanese occupation. Now it's known for headless ghosts and a crying lady. Luacan Road, home to the infamous White Lady. Legend has it she was brutally murdered here, and now she's out for revenge. Oh, and there's also a haunted pine tree that causes accidents. Because why have one curse when you can have two, right? Picture this. Dark, damp tunnels stretching beneath the city, built by Japanese forces during World War II. Sounds creepy enough, right? Well, hold on to your flashlights because it gets worse. When American forces bombed these tunnels, they didn't just destroy concrete and earth. They trapped countless Japanese soldiers inside, sealing their fate in the most horrific way possible. Now these poor souls are said to wander the tunnels, forever reliving their final, terrifying moments. Imagine walking through these tunnels today. The air is thick with more than just dust. Is that a whisper in Japanese you hear? A ghostly figure in an imperial uniform disappearing around the corner? In these tunnels, the war never ended, and the soldiers never went home. Another on our list, we've got Casa Vallejo, the granddaddy of Baguio hotels. This place has seen it all, folks. We're talking German POWs in the 1917, high-ranking American officials, and now, well, let's just say its current guests aren't all among the living. Visitors report feeling like they're being watched. Unexplained noises echo through the halls at night. And get this, people have been known to check out at odd hours, fleeing from something. What could be so terrifying that sends guests running in the middle of the night? Is it the spirit of a German prisoner still angry at his captivity? An American official unable to rest? Or something even darker drawn to this historic building like moths to a flame? One thing's for sure. At Casa Vallejo, you might check in for the history, but you'll stay for the horror show. And there you have it, Baguio City, where history and horror go hand in hand, and every street corner has a story that'll make your skin crawl. But hey, if this taste of Baguio's terrors has left you hungry for more, we've got you covered. Check out our video, Top 10 Most Haunted Places in Baguio. The link's floating around somewhere on your screen. Trust me, it's a scream. Fifth on our list is the Capas National Shrine. Picture this, 54 hectares of what looks like a peaceful park. But don't let that serene landscape fool you. This place is steeped in more tragedy than your average horror flick. It's 1942 and thousands of American and Filipino soldiers are forced to march 65 miles to Camp O'Donnell. We're talking starvation, dehydration, and abuse that would make even the toughest slasher villain wince. And that's just the beginning of the horror show. Those who survived the march, they wish they hadn't. At Camp O'Donnell, 26,000 Filipino prisoners died in just 73 days. That's more deaths than in most zombie apocalypse movies. And this was in real life, people. Fast forward to today, the Philippine government's built this massive shrine. We've got a 73 obelisk walls with over 3,000 names and 35 hectares of trees, each one representing a fallen soldier. Let's be real, folks. With all the tragedy that went down here, it'd be weirder if this place wasn't haunted. The Bataan Death March and Camp O'Donnell left some serious spiritual residue. It's like the air itself is thick with sorrow and unfinished business. An old rusty boxcar sitting in the shrine. Looks innocent enough, right? Wrong. This bad boy was used to transport POWs, and let me tell you, it's got some stories to tell. Visitors have reported feeling crushing sadness near it, and some even swear they've heard faint cries coming from inside. You know that big black marble with all the names? Yeah, it's not just a memorial, it's a hot spot for paranormal activity. People have seen ghostly soldiers hanging around, probably checking to make sure their names made the list. And don't be surprised if you feel sudden cold spots. That's just the spirit saying hello. We've had visitors and locals sharing some hair-raising stories. One guy swears he saw a full-bodied apparition of a soldier, complete with period uniform, just vanish into thin air. Another felt an invisible hand on her shoulder while reading their names on the wall. Spoiler alert, when she turned around, no one was there. Every April 9th, during the Araw ng Kagitingan commemorations, things get extra spooky. It's like the veil between worlds thins out and the spirits come out in full force. People have reported hearing phantom marches, disembodied voices giving military commands, and even the smell of army rations and gunpowder. The Capas National Shrine isn't just a history lesson. It's a full-on paranormal experience. It's where the past isn't just remembered, it's relived over and over again. Remember, if you visit, show some respect. These ghosts have been through enough already. And who knows, if you're quiet and listen carefully, you might just hear the whispers of history. Or something a whole lot creepier. Imagine a lush tropical paradise transformed into a hellscape overnight. That's exactly what happened to Bataan during World War II. This wasn't just any battlefield, folks. This was where thousands of souls met their doom in one of the most horrific chapters of the war. In January 1942, Bataan became the last stand of American and Filipino forces against the Japanese invasion. For 3 grueling months, these brave soldiers fought tooth and nail, outnumbered and outgunned. It was like something out of a zombie apocalypse movie, but with real bullets and real death. After the surrender on April 9, 1942, about 75,000 Filipino and American troops were forced on a 65-mile death march. Envision thousands of starving, sick soldiers marching for days under the scorching sun. But it's not all doom and gloom. Today, Bataan stands as a powerful reminder of human resilience. The Mount Samat National Shrine, perched atop a 4,500-foot mountain, honors those who suffered and died here. It's like a beacon of hope in a place that's seen so much darkness. Now, decades later, Bataan is haunted by more than just memories. Visitors report seeing ghostly soldiers marching endlessly through the jungle. Some say they can hear the faint cries of the dying or feel invisible hands reaching out for help. The Bataan Death March left more than just physical scars on this land. It's like the very air is thick with the echoes of suffering. People report feeling an overwhelming sense of sorrow, as if the land itself is mourning. It's enough to make even the toughest skeptic's skin crawl. The real horror show? That's along the route of the Bataan Death March itself. Survivors and locals swear they've heard the sounds of suffering echoing through the night. Some have even seen ghostly soldiers still marching, doomed to relive their final agonizing journey for all eternity. It's like a real-life horror movie playing on repeat. The Bataan Peninsula isn't just a place where history happened. It's where history refuses to die. It's a land where the past and present collide in the most spine-chilling way possible. Third on our list is Manila. The bustling capital of the Philippines isn't just a city of skyscrapers and traffic jams. Oh no. It's got a past darker than your average horror flick. Before World War II, this place was the Pearl of the Orient, a thriving hub of culture and commerce. But then, everything changed. It's the 1930s and Manila is like the cool kid at the Southeast Asian party. It's bustling, it's booming, and everyone wants a piece of it. Trade is flowing, culture is thriving, and life is good. But little do they know, a storm is brewing on the horizon, and it's about to turn their world upside down. Fast forward to December 7, 1941. While Pearl Harbor is getting pummeled, the Japanese decide to crush Manila's party too. By January 2, 1942, the Japanese have taken over. The Battle of Bataan, the Battle of Corregidor. These weren't just battles, they were nightmares come to life. Imagine your worst day, and multiply it by 1,000, add in some explosions and gunfire, and you're still not even close. But here's where it gets interesting. You know in horror movies how there's always that group of scrappy survivors fighting against the monsters? Well, that's exactly what happened in the Philippines. Uncaptured Filipino soldiers, communist rebels, and even some American agents decided they weren't going down without a fight. These guys were like the Avengers, but with less spandex and more jungle warfare. The Japanese thought they had control, but in the countryside and small towns, let's just say their grip was about as firm as a wet noodle. Now, here's where our horror movie reaches its climax. In 1944, the Allies come storming in like the cavalry. But the Japanese, they're not about to pack up and leave without a fight. The Battle of Manila in February 1945 was like something out of a post-apocalyptic nightmare. Urban warfare at its worst. When the dust settled, 100,000 people had lost their lives. It was as if the city itself was crying out in pain. Finally, on September 2, 1945, aboard the USS Missouri in Tokyo Bay, the Japanese officially threw in the towel. 4 years of occupation, of fear, of resistance, of hope. It all came to an end. Manila during World War II is a real-life horror story that puts our scariest movies to shame. It's a grim reminder that sometimes, the most terrifying tales are the ones that actually happened. First up, we've got Intramuros, the historic walled city that's basically a buffet of hauntings. Fort Santiago? People have seen ghostly figures wandering the grounds. And don't even get me started on Casa Manila. Footsteps, shadowy figures, the works. Now, if you thought your school was scary, wait till you hear about De La Salle University. During World War II, the Chapel of the Most Blessed Sacrament witnessed a horrific massacre. Today, it's a hotbed of paranormal activity. Students report seeing ghostly figures in the halls, hearing unexplained noises, and feeling sudden cold spots. Want more spine-chilling school stories? Check out our DLSU and University of the Philippines Haunted Stories video. The link's floating around somewhere on your screen. But the grand prize for haunted campuses goes to the University of Santo Tomas. This place was an internment camp during World War II, and boy, those spirits hold a grudge. From Benavides Park to the Ossuarium in the medical building, there's no shortage of ghostly encounters. For a deep dive into USD's spectral residence, check out our Ateneo de Manila and USD Haunted Stories video. Links on the screen, folks. And just when you thought it was safe to mail a letter, we've got the Manila Central Post Office. Once a Japanese garrison during the Battle of Manila, now it's a hotspot for residual hauntings. Employees report ghostly sightings and unexplained sounds. Manila isn't just a city. It's a living, breathing, or should I say, unliving and breathing, museum of the paranormal. From schools to post offices, nowhere is safe from the spirits of the past. Our second runner-up, Clark Airbase, located in the province of Pampanga, Philippines, has a storied past that dates back to the early 20th century. Its history is deeply intertwined with significant military events, including World War II. It's the early 1900s, and the US Army decides to set up shop in the Philippines. They name it Fort Stotzenberg, after Colonel John M. Stotzenberg. At first, it's all horses and cavalry. But then, they decide to add an airfield. They name it Clark Field, after Major Harold M. Clark. Fast forward to World War II, and Clark Air Base becomes a big player in the Pacific Theater. We're talking one of the largest overseas American air bases. But here's where things get really intense. December 8, 1941. The Japanese decide to crash the party at Clark. And boy, did they crash it hard. Aircraft destroyed, chaos everywhere. The Japanese then took over the base, turning it into their own little slice of occupied territory. For years, Clark witnessed who knows what kind of atrocities and suffering under Japanese control. After the war, Clark rose from the ashes like a phoenix. A very haunted phoenix. It became a crucial Cold War facility and even played a big role in the Vietnam War. But all good things must come to an end, right? In 1991, Mother Nature decided to join the party. Mount Pinatubo erupted, and combined with some political drama, it was curtains for Clark as a US base. Clark Air Base is where the ghosts of World War II still patrol the grounds and phantom planes still soar through the skies. It's a place where history and horror collide in the most spine-tingling way possible. Let's start with the abandoned Clark Air Base Hospital. This place isn't just creepy. It's off the charts terrifying. We're talking ghostly sightings, eerie sounds, and enough bad vibes to make your hair stand on end. The spirits of soldiers, nurses, and patients who suffered here during World War II and Vietnam War? Yeah, they never checked out. We've got a whole smorgasbord of scares waiting for you in this province. From ghostly mansions to mystical mountain, Pampanga's got it all. And lucky for you, we've wrapped it all up in a neat little package of terror. If you're hungry for more haunts, check out our video, 6 Most Haunted Places in Pampanga. The link's popping up on your screen right now. Check it out after this video. Next up, we've got the old barracks. These aren't your average haunted houses, folks. We're talking full-bodied apparitions in uniform, unexplained noises, and that creepy feeling of being watched. It's like the soldiers of the past are still standing guard. The airfield and hangars? Witnesses have seen spectral aircraft and ghostly servicemen, and if you listen closely, you might hear the phantom roar of World War II era engines. Some of the older trees on the base are said to be execution sites from the Japanese occupation. People have seen apparitions hanging from branches and felt sudden chills. These trees don't just whisper, they scream with the echoes of the past. And for our grand finale, we've got the parade ground. By day, it's just an empty field. But at night, it becomes a spectral stage for ghostly marches and formations. Imagine a misty morning and suddenly, you see a platoon of long-dead soldiers marching in the perfect formation. Clark Airbase is a hotspot of paranormal activity that would make even the bravest ghost hunter think twice. And finally, our top one, Corregidor Island, a tiny island fortress standing defiantly against the backdrop of World War II. Corregidor wasn't just any old rock in the sea, folks. This place was the last stand of freedom in the Philippines, and boy did it pay the price. Now let me paint you a picture. Imagine an island so perfectly placed, so naturally fortified, that even Mother Nature seems to have designed it for war. That's Corregidor for you, aka Fort Mills. This bad boy was the biggest of 4 islands guarding Manila Bay, and let me tell you, it was armed to the teeth. We're talking coastal artillery that could make your grandma's cookies look like pebbles. This place was ready to rumble long before World War II even kicked off. The Battle of Corregidor wasn't just any old skirmish. This was the last stand, the final showdown between the Allies and the Japanese in the Philippines. After Bataan fell on April 9, 1942, Corregidor stood alone. For nearly a month, this tiny island took everything the Japanese could throw at it. And I mean everything. Bombs, shells, you name it. It was like the 4th of July, but instead of celebrating, people are dying. Finally, on May 6, 1942, Corregidor fell. But don't worry, folks. This story has a sequel. In 1945, the US came back with a vengeance and recaptured the island. Now, if you think the surface of Corregidor is creepy, wait till you hear about what's underneath. This island is honeycombed with tunnels, and the granddaddy of them all is the Malinta Tunnel. This wasn't just any old hole in the ground. Oh no. This was a Swiss Army knife of tunnels. Storage hub? Check. Bomb shelter? You bet. Office space? Sure, why not? Living quarters? Yep. And get this, it even had a 1,000-bed hospital. Imagine the echoes of pain and suffering that must still linger in those dark corridors. But that's not all, folks. Corregidor is filled with grim reminders of its bloody past. The Pacific War Memorial stands as a silent sentinel, while old gunneries point their lifeless barrels out to sea, forever on guard against enemies long gone. Let me tell you, Corregidor isn't just haunted. It's like a 5-star hotel for ghosts. We're talking apparitions popping up like whack-a-moles, shadow figures playing hide and seek, and disembodied voices chattering away like it's happy hour in the afterlife. And the scenery? Crumbling barracks, rusting cannons, and jungle vegetation creeping over everything like nature's own horror movie set. It's enough to make even the bravest ghost hunter's knees knock. Picture this. You're walking through a dark tunnel, your flashlight barely cutting through the gloom. Suddenly, you hear footsteps behind you. You turn around and... nothing. Welcome to Malinta Tunnel, folks. This place saw 3,000 soldiers go boom when they detonated explosives inside. Now, it's like Grand Central Station for ghosts. Apparitions of soldiers, voices in the dark. It's all part of the Malinta experience. If Malinta Tunnel is haunted, then this hospital is practically ghost central. This massive concrete beast isn't actually a mile long, but it sure feels like it when you're there. Once home to 8,000 soldiers and even General MacArthur himself. Now it's just a roofless skeleton. Or is it? People claim to see ghosts in the upper floors. You know, the ones that are totally off limits to us living folks. We're talking full-on apparitions, creepy voices, the whole 9 yards. So if you're feeling brave, take a stroll past this haunted hotspot. But don't say we didn't warn you. Battery Way isn't your average power station. It's a World War II artillery site turned ghost central. We're talking shadow figures playing peekaboo between gun emplacements and phantom explosions that'll have you ducking for cover. Next stop, Bloodstone Beach. Don't let the name fool you. Those red-stained rocks aren't actually bloody. But that doesn't make this place any less creepy. The beach is like nature's own war memorial, complete with misty apparitions and whispers on the wind that'll send chills down your spine. Corregidor Island, where history and horror dance a deadly waltz. It's a place where every step could lead to a ghostly encounter, and every shadow might be more than just the absence of light. Remember, if you visit Corregidor, keep your wits about you and your camera ready. And there you have it, Midnight Archivers. The haunted echoes of World War II in the Philippines. These ghost stories are more than just spine-tingling tales to thrill or scare. They are poignant reminders of the war's profound human cost. The locations we've explored are hallowed grounds soaked in the history and blood of those who bravely fought and fell. The haunting stories that persist are a testament to the enduring impact of the war on the Filipino psyche, highlighting the importance of remembering and honoring the past. Whether you're a believer in the paranormal or a skeptic, these tales and the places that haunt are woven into the cultural and historical fabric of the Philippines. They ensure that the echoes of the past are never truly silenced and that the sacrifices made are never forgotten. So what's your take on these haunted histories? Do you have your own stories or experiences tied to these sacred sites? Share them in the comments below. If this journey through history and hauntings resonated with you, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon for more Midnight Archives adventures. Until next time, keep the lights on and the memories alive. Good night.